I feel like because we've been so inundated with how completely incompetent and mentally incapable anyone within President Joe Biden's regime has been over the last couple of years, we've taken our eye off the ball of what many of us said once upon a time. When this pandemic is over, people in power need to be held accountable for what they did to us in one way or another. Well, many of us forgot.
How dare you!
I'm here as a reminder of the economic collapse, authoritarian edicts, apologizing for Chinese atrocities, American hate, political perversion, medical malpractice, and deliberate deception concerning a medical procedure that many of us were lucky enough and strong-willed enough to avoid, while others, perfectly healthy, mind you, possibly suffered a far worse fate than COVID: death. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me one more time for another edition of the best kept secret in the conservative movement, things that need to be said. For MRC TV, I'm Nick Kangadis. Really quick, I'd love it if all of you could head on over to Rumble, subscribe to our channel, and hit that plus button. And no matter where you watch our videos, please share, like, and don't be afraid to leave a comment. I love to read what you guys have to say, and I couldn't do what I do without all of you. Now, on with the show. Let me just preface everything I'm about to say by getting this out of the way. I'm not saying that the vaccines are killing people through heart issues, but I'm not saying it either.
Well, you're just gonna have to figure that shit out on your own, okay?
Here's a question to start off with, and I'm only asking it because I see how people really feel in comment sections across all of social media. But whenever you see an article or a blog about what appears to have been a perfectly healthy young person, and when I say that, I mean around 40 years of age and under, but whenever you see those articles about how that seemingly perfectly healthy person dropped dead of some kind of heart malady, is there at least a tiny voice in the back of your head wondering or outright saying, I wonder if it was a side effect of the sometimes forced medical procedure we were all told to take? Remember, and I can't play this clip enough.
One last thing that's really important is we're not in a position where we think that any virus, including the Delta virus, which is much more transmissible and more deadly in terms of unvaccinated people, the various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Yeah. Well, the latest questionable death with someone literally dropping dead was a 41-year-old popular Haitian singer, Mika Ben. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, no disrespect. He had just finished singing a song and collapsed while leaving the stage. And as usual with these cases, and again, I'm not speculating, but as of this recording, there's no known cause of death. The powers that be are trying to explain instances like these away by calling them the result of sudden adult death syndrome. However, SADS has to do primarily with the heart, loss of function, and irregular rhythms that can lead to cardiac arrest, according to Health Desk. Wayne Allen Root wrote the following for Town Hall last December. All over America and all over the world, cardiac arrest, heart inflammation, and heart attack deaths are exploding. Young athletes are dropping right on the field. Star soccer players in Europe are dropping dead in the middle of games. Referees, coaches, and even fans in the stands are having cardiac emergencies. It's something no one has ever seen before. It's an epidemic. What do all these victims have in common? They've all been vaccinated. And while we all have our suspicions as to what caused the deaths of hundreds, if not thousands of people, there's other ways that the pandemic has increased the number of deaths among young people. For example, another point people are hesitant to talk about because it's a sensitive subject is how many young people committed or attempted to commit suicide because of the new normal that was forced upon them. Far left establishment outlet The Atlantic, I'm not going to mention the name of the writer because he's a hack, tried to downplay the effects of the manufactured pandemic of the psyches of young adults in April of 2021. The wrangling over school closures and other pandemic restrictions, whether they went on too long or not long enough, how much good they really did will continue to play out for some time. And while it's reasonable to worry about the pandemic's effect on teenagers, unfounded claims about a spike in suicides only muddle the important issues, unquote. So The Atlantic wanted you to know That even though teenagers are killing themselves, the reason isn't important because it gets in the way of the message. But just 1 year later, even NBC News had to admit that, quote, adolescents accounted for a larger share of suicides across 14 states in 2020 than they did over the previous 5 years, unquote. And while I know you get in trouble with the big tech overlords should you report CDC information they don't want people to know about, I'm going to tell you anyway. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, in June of 2021, quote, what is already known about this topic? During 2020, the proportion of mental health-related emergency department ED visits among adolescents aged 12 to 17 years increased 31% compared with that during 2019. What is added by this report? In May 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, ED visits for suspected suicide attempts began to increase among adolescents aged 12 to 17 years, especially girls. During February 21st through March 20th, 2021, suspected suicide attempt ED visits were 50.6% higher among girls aged 12 to 17 years than during the same period in 2019. Among boys aged 12 to 17 years, suspected suicide attempt ED visits increased 3.7%, unquote. So what the establishment and the global elite, through the release of the Chinese coronavirus onto the world, was telling you was that their mandates and lockdowns and edicts and guidance and advice and science, oh, the science, was more important than the actual impact on you and your families. Why do you think the endless number of parasites in power pushed a medical procedure that they didn't even test whether it worked or not?
And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market?
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
People in power, and I don't care how many fake conservatives and fascist leftists want to tell you or me otherwise, do not care about your health. If they did, then why do they still like to discredit reputable sources of information like Florida Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo when he reported that the, quote, mRNA vaccine led to an 84% increase in cardiac deaths for men ages 18 to 39, unquote. Any of you who really think any of these people care about you, and there's maybe a handful of politicians out of the hundreds who might, are living in mental lockdown. And as I've said before, you don't have to like what I'm saying, but you can't deny the truth when it's there smacking you in the face. So, will the feckless FBI be paying me a visit after this one, or are these things that need to be said? Let me know in the comments, where I do read most and reply to some. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel on Rumble and hit that plus button. If you like this video, don't forget to share, comment, and give it a thumbs up. Those are the best ways to help these videos reach more people, and it's the best way to let us know you want us to keep these videos coming. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube might actually let you know when MRCTV comes out with a new video if they haven't censored it or taken it down yet. Like us on Facebook and check out more of our work at MRCTV.org. For MRCTV, I'm Nick Kangadis.